years ago, Rebel News covered a nanny state conference in India where United Nations officials and Canadian health bureaucrats met to find new and exciting ways to control your life. And 3 years later, we're still working hard to get to the bottom of that secretive conference. I've just now received some of the expense claims for the Canadian delegation. In 2016, a team of Rebel reporters traveled to what we called at the time a United Nations Nanny State Conference in New Delhi, India. It was the World Health Organization's biggest conference, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. But this United Nations conference wasn't just about tobacco. These things never are just about what they say they are. It was about controlling your life and anything the UN wants to regulate under the auspices of public health. The whole conference is a template for global taxes and regulations on soft drinks, meat, snack foods, salt, sugar, and anything else the United Nations wants to regulate. And while our reporters were there, although 3 years later, this doesn't actually seem all that surprising or shocking, given how the United Nations has treated me and David Menzies over the years, the UN and delegates moved to ban all journalists from reporting at the conference. And the Canadian government officials also voted for the ban. No objections at all. So while these UN elites and Canadian bureaucrats discussed the new expensive ways to control the things you want to eat and the fun you want to have, they voted to do it behind closed doors with zero accountability. Yes, friends, there was a lot they didn't want journalists to know going on at that nanny state conference. The Ministry of Health has ragged the puck, so to speak, for 3 years to prevent us from getting our hands on the expense reports from that conference. You see, the officials didn't want this journalist to know about those bureaucrats' predilections for the very junk food they want to ban and tax. And they didn't want me to tell you they were making taxpayers absorb their late-night cookie cravings. And yet, these are the very folks who purport themselves as here to save us from ourselves and our bad lifestyle choices. These people are supposed to be so much smarter and so much better at being healthy than we are. That's why they go to these stupid conferences to rule over us. And yet now I have evidence that these people destroyed a few minibars a couple of times over. And let's not pretend that they've got a whole selection of keto-friendly snacks and pre-cut celery and cauliflower in those cute little in-room fridges. We all know what's in there. Empty carbohydrates and insulin spikes. Okay, let's get into the minibar receipts, shall we? Page 35. I know it's hard to see here, but a bureaucrat named Lori Dunbar was gutting her minibar fridge one sweltering November week in 2016 in New Delhi, India. It's not a lot of money, you know. It's only $115 after we convert rupees to Canadian cash. But I think it's the point of it all. These people want to tax my sugar while I pay for theirs in India. Page 66. Nanny state bureaucrat Susie McDonald helped herself to some cookies right out of the minibar. And on page 89, health bureaucrat Denis Schwanner, disregarding the fact that diabetes and Western sedentary lifestyles are an actual health crisis, chugged down some high fructose corn syrup and carbonation in the form of a soft drink or 2 or 3 from the minibar. I know it's not a lot of money, folks, but I think it's the point. Maybe a couple $100 they wasted, that's all. The point is, these people were in India, like I said, under the auspices of public health and human welfare, trying to put a global tax on tobacco and then salt and sugar and fat and probably my steak. My advice to these well-cushioned government health bureaucrats stricken with late-night sweet teeth: get off your butt, get out of the minibar, go for a walk, find some cheap and maybe even healthy snacks in an Indian convenience store. That would have been the smarter lifestyle choice. Or just go back to bed and resist the calls of the sweet, sweet sugar fairy. Instead, these bureaucrats holed up in their rooms and ate an entire mini fridge of high-calorie, high-salt, high-sugar garbage, simply for the convenience of it all while telling other people like you and like me, how to live. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. At The Rebel, we are accountability journalists, and sometimes what we do is a little bit cheeky, like what I did today, and sometimes it is quite literally hard-hitting, like when our David Menzies paid a visit to transgender activist Jessica Yaniv in Vancouver and was assaulted with a cane. Now, one of the best ways to support our journalism really doesn't cost you a dime. Just like and share our content, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.